Today for our daily cancellation, I'm going to be canceling preemptively all the false narratives, current and future, over the latest incident of a suspect dying while police attempt to restrain him during an arrest. This is Lionel Morris. He died on February 4th at a grocery store as police tried to place him under arrest. The media is running with the story. The usual suspects are chiming in. Another George Floyd, they're saying, the Washington Post headline is clearly meant to give a certain impression. Their headline, "If you can talk, you can breathe. Arkansas cops tell man who later dies in police custody." Okay, but all you need to do is read the Washington Post article, the actual article, not just the headline, speaking of actually reading articles, to see the truth. So let's do that now. Let's look at this is like the second paragraph of the article. It says, Morris had run from officers on February 4th and then placed one officer in a chokehold and tried to pull out a knife, according to police, after the supermarket had reported him for removing a drone from its packaging, i.e. he was trying to steal it. But as an officer had his knee on this 39-year-old's back inside Harp's food store, Morris, handcuffed and lying face down, repeatedly offered a succinct and familiar plea, "I can't breathe." There's body cam footage and surveillance footage that has been released, and you can see it online. Prosecutors cleared the officers of any wrongdoing in the case, and that's why it's in the news now, and that's why the footage was released. The footage shows why there are no charges in this case. The body cam video is 45 minutes long. I'm not going to play the whole thing, of course, but here's how the arrest began. At least we'll play this, and you'll see just the beginning of it. You can go on YouTube to see the rest. But here's how the arrest started.
Okay, ready? Now. Put your hands behind your back.
What?
All right.
Jason, you too.
What's up? What's
Hands
up,
on
sir?
your back.
Come on, sir, please.
Hey.
Okay.
Hey, put it back there. Just, I got it. Help me!
Let go. Relax and let go.
Now, you can't see a lot of the details there, but you can tell he's running, obviously, fighting. The officer ends up on his back, and we're told Morris tried to pull a knife, put an officer in a chokehold. Also, there's other information about this story that's important. This also is from the Post, but it's buried deeper down in the article. It says, the medical examiner concluded that Morris died of methamphetamine intoxication with a combination of exertion, struggle, restraint, and conducted electrical weapon deployment, according to a letter from prosecuting attorney Carol Cruz. To explain his death in custody, Tapley pointed to toxicology reports finding that Morris had substances including methamphetamine, morphine, amphetamine, opiates, and cannabinoids in his system. Okay, so a whole bunch of drugs. To review here, Morris died because he was trying to steal something. Cops were called. They tried to arrest him because theft is illegal, FYI. He ran, assaulted officers, tried to use a deadly weapon, and all of that commotion eventually killed him, due in large part to the cocktail of illegal drugs that he had put into his body. Who is to blame here? Is it the cops who tried to arrest a man who committed a crime and then defended themselves against his violent attack? Or is it the man who took a bunch of drugs, tried to steal something, then attacked the officers who came to arrest him? Who should we blame? It's a tough call, isn't it? Actually, no, it's not. It's not a tough call at all. This is pretty straightforward. And amid all this talk about accountability, holding police accountable, how about some very basic accountability for people like Lionel Morris? In all of these cases, that part of it is always left out. What could the cops have done differently? Okay, what could Lionel Morris have done differently? I can think of dozens of things he could have done differently. Certainly several big ones, like don't steal. If you do steal and the cops come, okay, they have every right to arrest you. You were trying to commit a crime. We live in a civilized society. We have laws. If you break them, you get arrested. So don't run. If you do try to make a run for it, which seems like a really bad idea because you're first of all, the woman that you're with is is not running, so they've got her. They're going to find you. You're on surveillance footage. You're not going to get away. So running makes no sense at all. There's no reason to do it. So don't do that. Even if you do that, don't then assault the police officer when they finally catch up to you. And even if you do all of those things, don't take a bunch of potentially lethal drugs ahead of time that could, result in your death. I mean, that's a list of 4 or 5 things that Lionel Morris could have done differently. And if he had made a different choice on any one of those things, okay, just if he had take any one of those points, if he had made a different choice, he'd be alive today. And it's not a high bar either, right? Like, don't take a bunch of drugs, try to steal something, and then assault the officers who come to arrest you. That is not a high bar to get over. It's not like we're expecting something unreasonable of Lionel Morris in this case. He made a whole series of really, really bad choices, and then he died. It's very sad. It's always sad when someone dies. It's always sad, especially when someone chooses to throw their own life away for no reason. Any death is sad, but a death because you wanted to buy yourself a few minutes of not being in custody after you tried to steal a drone from a grocery store, it's like you're going to throw your life away over that. It's a really sad thing, but it's not a moral outrage. There's no injustice here. So we know what Lionel Morris could have done differently. Very obvious. If you want to start picking apart the police officers and Monday morning quarterbacking it, what could they have done differently? Let's go through the chain of events on the part of the officers. They get a call that someone's trying to steal at a store. They respond to the call. We all agree they should do that, right? They're not going to ignore it. They show up to the scene. They investigate the situation. Okay, we all agree they should do that, right? They're going to go up to Lionel Morris and the woman that he's with. They're going to ask some questions. They find that he's removed a drone from the packaging and left it, on a shelf and has put the drone somewhere. Pretty good evidence that he's trying to steal it. You don't do that if you're planning to pay for it. So now they know, or it seems very clear that he was trying to commit a crime. So they're going to arrest him. Is that a problem? I mean, he was trying to commit a crime. Again, we do live in a civilized society with laws. I know the left would prefer if we didn't, but we do. And it's their job to enforce them. So they try to arrest him. So far, they've done nothing wrong. Okay, now let's compare. The chain of events, we've got, parallel actions and choices of the officers and Lionel Morris. It's parallel until they intersect. These parallel choices, so far the officers have done nothing wrong. Lionel Morris already has made a series of really bad choices, taking a bunch of drugs, trying to steal something. And now there's the intersection. They try to make the arrest. He runs. What do they do here? Do you expect him to say, oh, never mind. Oh, he's running, guys. Forget it. Let's go. Of course, they're going to chase him. They have to. They're trying to arrest him. He ran away. The only other option there is to say, well, if you get arrested and you run, then you're home free. We might as well not have police at that point. So they try to chase him down. Can't blame him for that. Once they get him, now he's someone who's resisting. This is a man. This is a younger. This is not like a young child that they're trying to apprehend here. This is a grown man that they're trying to apprehend. He obviously is resisting, so they have to use force to bring him down. Now he's putting them in chokeholds. He's trying to grab for a weapon. He is now a lethal threat to them. And so they don't pull out a gun and shoot him. They try to use a taser. They use less lethal means. And finally they get him down and they're holding him on the ground while they try to cuff him. Amid all that chaos, we've already established that leading up to the chaos, the officers did everything right. I mean, there's nothing, what else could they have done while Lionel Morris was doing everything wrong? But even amid all the chaos, what else do you want them to do? They're trying to, it's a difficult thing. If you've never tried to do it, I've never done it, but I'll put it this way. I'll take the police word for it that when you're trying to cuff a grown man who doesn't want to be cuffed, that's a difficult thing. It's not easily done. And it requires some force. That seems logical to me. I'll buy that. I could believe that. And so yes, they've got him down the ground. They're not on his neck. They've got a knee on the back. How else are they going to affect the arrest? What else do you want them to do? And then he dies. Because largely he was on a cocktail of drugs. If he wasn't on those drugs, he'd be alive. So it just seems pretty obvious to me who is responsible here. And maybe at a certain point we could start just holding people accountable, not just police officers, other people too, accountable for their own actions. A really basic bar that we could say to people, you really got to get over that bar. That society expects that of you. I think that should be our message as well. So that false narrative is canceled. A lot of cancellations today. Been good. A lot of fun. Well, I hope you enjoyed that clip from the Matt Walsh Show. If you did, go ahead and hit that subscribe button right down there so you can stay up to date on all of our future content.